Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about Spree. Spree is obviously a new mechanic that came with OTJ, and I have to say that Spree is perhaps my favorite mechanic that they've ever done, or at least that they've done in recent years. I think that Spree is just really great. It's a very interesting take on essentially escalate and modal spells and stuff like that. But I think that it has a very interesting kind of design philosophy, and I think that they could take it in some very interesting ways. So, if you don't know what Spree is, essentially it is you get one card. So here you can see this Final Showdown, which is the mythic one, which is the one that everyone's chasing because it's amazing. It costs 1 white, and then it's got Spree. You have to choose one or more additional costs. So for +1, all creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. So essentially like a dress down. We've got another +1 here. Choose a creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. And then for 4, you can destroy all creatures. So the way it works is when you cast it, you choose, you pay white. Then you can choose any of these 3. So if you want to give one creature indestructible and then destroy all creatures, you can. If you just want to destroy all creatures, you can do that for 3 white and 3 colorless, if that's what you want. Or what you could do is pay 1 white, 1 colorless, and then do this, and then destroy all creatures. All creatures, therefore, would not have indestructible, because they've lost all abilities. They don't get to regenerate. They don't get to come back. They don't get to do any of their abilities. They just are gone, right? So it's a very interesting mechanic. So the former one was obviously Escalate, where you pay 1 and a white, and then you get to choose one. But then for each additional one, you have to pay an additional 2. Now, the difference between these is obviously, I think it's pretty obvious, is that, first of all, the base card is priced relatively cheaply. Right, so this is like one white. The base card will always be cheap because you have to choose one of these additional costs. While here, the base cost will be based on one of these, or they all have to be roughly similar kind of power as well, right? Because of the fact that the escalate cost is set and it's going to be escalate. So say, for example, there's escalate 2 here. You choose one. That means that all of these modes have to be roughly the same kind of power, because you're paying 2 and you get to choose any of those modes, which means that, they can't have one that's more expensive because it's not how it works. Meanwhile, with Spree, they get to do that. They get to, you pay 1 and then you could do this, or you could do this for 1. So both of those have the same cost. But then because Destroy All Creatures is obviously an incredibly powerful ability, they get to make it so that it's costed higher. Personally, I love this mechanic. I think that's really cool. Maybe you guys disagree with me. So we're going to go through some of the modal spells here because I think that's really interesting to kind of look at them. So for red, and say for 2 red, you get to choose a target. Each time you deal combat damage to them, you're going to create a tapped treasure token. That is really nice for 2 red. But then you could add in another red and 2 colorless to get an untap, right? Now keep in mind that this does have to be during your combat phase. I fucked that up a couple times where I've gone to use it after my combat phase, and it doesn't, if it's your main phase, create another combat phase or anything like that. It's if it's a combat phase, do it. So you have to do this. You have to call attackers, and then during after blockers, you probably would cast it to untap everything, and etc, etc. Creatures you control get +1 and first strike as well for another 2. Give all your creatures plus strike, first strike, and so you could do this after blockers are declared as well, to give, your stuff first strike and +1 if you wanted to. We've got Insatiable Avarice, which is a very nice. So this is a tutor, black and 2 for a tutor to put it on the top of your library. And then you can pay another 2 black to draw 3 cards. That's nice. 3 black just to draw 3 cards and lose 3 life isn't too bad. But then you can pay 2 to tutor something on top and then get that. We've got one last job where you're paying 2 and a white, and then you get to return a creature for 2. You get to return a mount or vehicle for 1, which, isn't necessarily going to be what your deck's going to have in it. Or you get to return an aura and equipment for 1. Very, very nice. There's lots of kind of Voltron decks that could make a lot of use for this. Rush of Dread. So this is a very interesting one, right? So you've got a black sorry, 2 blacks and a colorless, and then you get to choose pay 1 to make someone sacrifice half their creatures, pay 1 to make someone discard half their hand, and then pay 2 to make target opponent lose half their life, rounded up. That is really cool. You know, the thing is that if you're playing it, it needs to kind of feel good for multiple different reasons. It needs to feel good if you cast it just for this and one of those, right? You don't want it to feel too bad. It's potentially going to be overcosted for just that, because just naturally it's probably potentially going to be overcosted for just that. However, you know, once you get to 2 modal spells, and it's going to be like 2 modes, it's going to be really great. Potentially. Some of them are just great straight off the bat though, like this Smuggler's Surprise. This gives green and +1 creatures you control with power 4 or less, gave hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This is really great. Then, why not pay another 2, milt 4 cards, put 2 of them back into your hand. Or, if you wanted to, you could go 2 greens and 4, put 2 creatures from your hand onto the battlefield. And the thing that I love about it is that you can just customize it as you have it in here. It gives you a lot of choice when you're crafting your decks, because you get to be like, okay, so I'm going to add, let's go with Smugglers, right? Let's go with Smuggler's Surprise. I'm going to add this into my deck just because I want to make sure that my commander has hexproof and indestructible. But I'm going to potentially find use for this. You want to be able to at least make use of potentially 2 of the game, of the modes at least, but you could potentially just run it even if you're only going to get use for 1 of them. 3 steps ahead. This is pay 2 blue and a colorless to counter target spell. Boom. Counter spell for +1 more. It's a little bit overcosted, but why not? You can add 3, you can add 2, and then draw cards. It's just really great. There are some of them that aren't as great. So this is 2 and a red to deal 2. This is probably good if you're running all outlaws. This wouldn't be too bad in an all outlaw deck if you want to deal 2 to everything else. But this one is not all that great, right? 2 to everything. You know, your things are going to get dealt damage as well. It's not everyone's. Getaway Glamour. This is a nice one. You get to destroy a creature for 3, but you can also exile something and flicker it for yourself. You can save, like you could use this to save yourself as protection, but also destroy something at the same time. Lively Dirge, though, this is the one that won me the freaking limited event, right? So I had what was it? I had Jasper Flint in my deck. I decided to run Jasper Flint because my son's named Jasper. And then I also had Tiny Bones in there. Tiny Bones died. I then cast this for its full price of 5. And then I got to search my library for a card, put Jasper into my graveyard. Then I resurrected Jasper and Tiny Bones. And then the guy just was like, no, what? It was really great. Lively Dirge, I think, is one that I absolutely love. We've got Metamorphic Blast here. Turn something into a rabbit for 2. Great. Also, pay 3 to draw 2 cards. Why not? Requisition Raid, not too bad. White and 1 to destroy an artifact. Then another 1 to destroy an enchantment. Not too bad. 3 to destroy a target artifact and enchantment. That's not too bad. But then you can pay 1 to build a +1/+1 on all of your stuff. Honestly, Requisition Raid as an uncommon, to me, is really great. I think there's going to be use for it. Return the Favor. Pay 2 and a 1 to copy something, and then you get to choose its new... It's not just copy an instant or sorcery. Activated ability, triggered ability. Why not? You can choose new targets for that copy. And then also, you get to change the target of a target spell or ability. So you get to essentially Deflecting Swat, right? Deflecting Swat for 2 and a 1, and then also you get to copy something if you want to. Why not? Copy it and redirect it. You could do both. Rustler Rampage, not too bad. 1 and a white to untap everything, but then also you can give 1 to give something double strike. No one's going to expect that. The Shift and Grift one, this is the last one I'm going to cover because I think that it's really great in like theft decks. It's going to go straight into my Don Andreas deck. We've got 2 and then two blue. This is another great kind of use of the mode, like the spree mechanic, because you can pay 1 to exchange artifacts, pay 1 to exchange enchantments, but then you can pay 2 to exchange 2 creatures. I love this. I love this idea. I honestly think that spree is probably one of the best mechanics. Maybe you guys disagree with me. I don't know. There's some people who love banding. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.